Hey, everybody. Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where every week we are interviewing the most amazing private practices. Every week we have a brand new perspective, we have a new specialty. So we have a lot going on here. And today we have a really awesome special guest. I'm very, very excited to introduce you to Dr. Kali Penders. She is the owner of Coastal Kids Physical Therapy. So, Dr. Colley, so nice to meet you. So excited to do this with you.
Thane, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I'm very excited to dive in. So would lo kind of what I'd love to do here in the beginning is, hearing your story. What had gotten you here? What had inspired you to open up your own practice? What inspired you to even get into the field that you're in? Tell us, give us all the goods. Give us all the goods.
Oh, great. So I have had a really fortunate, I look at it as a really fortunate kind of background in treating in lots of different settings in pediatrics. Um, I have worked at kind of major hospital institutions to schools to birth of three to outpatient ICU, NICU,
Hmm.
kind of the gamut. Um, And in doing that, it brought me to a place where, some families were asking me to see them privately. Um, and, I kind of took that medical model that I love, and that evidence-based practice and thought to myself, I see so much progress being made when I am in people's homes, whether it's like birth to three or even in the natural setting of the schools, but there's something missing. So it really, Coastal Kids is a very hybrid, unique model where we take that medical evidence-based practice and we treat in the natural setting. So we bring those tools and we go directly into the home, or wherever that means. It could be the track at their high school, it could be the road that they bike on, in the shoreline, and it could be at a school, at a daycare. It's just really remarkable. So, we're the only practice in the state that has that hybrid model, and it kind of I had a vision, came together, and it's just been rewarding ever since.
I love that. I love meeting people also in their own environment. That must be so much fun for you guys too, to just kind of see, what's interesting to them, where they are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's just as rewarding for the providers. The amount of information from even just an assessment perspective that they can gain, but it really also connects the provider and the family together. The rapport that they build. I mean, it's such an intimate perspective. And so what they can do with that in terms of really catering it to the individual, to the child and to the family, makes carryover and progress just amazing.
Yeah, that is, I love it. I love your story. Would love to hear a little bit about, some of the common areas that you guys address or help people with what they're struggling with and helping kids. So t tell me a little bit about what you maybe commonly see and maybe some things that maybe aren't so common.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So we're comprised of an interdisciplinary team of physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech and language therapy. And within that, just from like a global perspective, we treat from birth to about 22 years old. It really depends. There's a lot of young adults that, cognitively are not at an age equivalent that can go to more of an adult center. So we keep going. But within that is an enormous variety. We treat all diagnoses for the most part. For PT, we treat anything from like custom orthotics for young athletes who are injured to neurodevelopmental disorders. What's really amazing is we bring a lot of those kind of tools, just in our car. Like we transport it right to them, and that's I think probably the most unique part, that families aren't having to schedule and rearrange. And for occupational therapy, We see a lot of kids with sensory processing disorders,
Mhm.
emotional regulation, ADD with executive functioning, and a lot of feeding therapy, which is just really also incredible to see. Feeding therapy outside of the home is really hard to replicate. So, they're in their own kitchens, they're feeling, smelling, seeing, they're part of that whole process right where it happens naturally. And so is the caregiver, so are the parents. So they're able to kind of see, how that therapy is being modeled and be able to apply it right away 3 times a day. We eat quite often. So um, for speech therapy, and those are just some diagnoses. We really do treat a wide range. But for speech and language therapy, we treat from oral motor with tongue tie, cheek ties, all the way to expressive language delays, also neurogenetic disorders using assistive technology. So the different applications and technology resources to help kids who have challenges with expressive language and can't access that as well. I need that support.
Mm. Yeah, there's so much. I love how diverse you are. There's so much that you can cover under one roof. Not only, being in person where they are, but doing so many different things. So I love all the different modalities, the different ways that you can help someone and at such different ranges of their life, which is incredible to be able to follow families, to get to know them. It also must be so rewarding to be able to be with someone for such a long life cycle and helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. With the outpatient model, we really follow kind of the assessment process of being able to, see what their goals are, mark that progress within like 12 weeks, and then reevaluate. But what's
Mhm.
nice is, therapy shouldn't be forever. You think of like yourself and your family, and you need that time. That time's so important. But we're in and out all the time where there is a resource to be able to jump in when new concerns are there or new goals are there. And our providers, our team, just I would say, it's such a tremendous another reason why I got into this practice was really being able to provide a better work-life balance. So it goes both directions. What we're doing is just really tremendous for families in the community, but also it's very rewarding for the provider because we really spend a significant amount of time. It's not the 30-minute sessions, it's more like 45 minutes to an hour, and we're not kind of juggling a lot of what is in healthcare right now,
Yeah.
therapists in terms of scheduling and kind of that multitasking. We're able to give that direct service and individual attention, which is great for them too.
Yeah, I would definitely say your flex and what makes you guys different is, being the only person really in your area that is doing what you're doing, and having all different types of PT, OT, all of that is really, really important. But is there anything else that you would say that is kind of unique to you guys that you're really proud of?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I would say the other big part of, our mission is community and breaking
Mhm.
down what that really means to us as coastal kids, and being able to give back, but also enmesh ourselves in the resources that we have here and being a part of that. So we've really, in the last couple of years, gotten more involved in a lot of the nonprofits that are here,
Nice.
being, sponsors as coastal kids, but also volunteers. And, anywhere from, our local Lake Madison JCs who help support family, and some of them have been our families to help support them in times of kind of tragedy or chronic illnesses, areas where insurance isn't covering medical equipment, all the way to autism resource walks and fairs, and being a part of a lot of that education to the community and providing that support. So that I would say is a really big part, being part of our Madison Chamber and um, really kind of giving back to that small business and what we can do from a volunteer perspective from where we live and the families that live in the shoreline community we treat.
That is so nice. Your community is so lucky to have you to be so involved and, so inspired by the people around you to do more, to do better. I think everyone would love to have that in their own community. So that's so great that you're so involved. Kind of, speaking of involvement and education, and the name of all of that, there's so much resource out there, right? You go online. It's easy to Google things. People are, now dabbling into AI and ChatGPT. There's a whole host of things that we're doing to get information, right? So, but not all information is good information. And so this is precisely why we do Provider Spotlight is to get people like you on that are really well informed, that are great at what they do. But I think with every specialty, there always comes a point where you get asked a question and you're like, where did you hear that? I'm like, who told you that this is what this was all about? There's a lot of misconceptions, I think, in healthcare in general. I always love to ask people, what are some curious questions that you might get once in a while, or maybe it's something that's very frequent, but what are some of those misconceptions that you feel like you are always debunking? With whether it's a client or a family member, or a kid comes and asks and said, "Oh, my friend was doing this. Is that really true?"
Right, right, right. Oh, such a good question. A couple of things very different from each other come to mind. One from like a clinical perspective, and this is W sitting. I don't know if
Oh,
you've ever heard of that, but it probably is something, especially in my PT world, comes up quite often. So kids, even from infancy, who start to learn to sit with their feet outside of them,
yeah,
so it's
yeah, yeah.
like in the shape of a W,
Yes.
that is the start of some really challenging biomechanical issues that go all the way up. So we could be treating, like a middle school, fourth, fifth grade athlete, and they're having hip pain. And you can trace all the way back down to W sitting or asymmetrical crawling. And that, torsion and turning of their hips, that song of the heads connected to the, I mean, it is a kinetic chain and it's really incredible. So eliminating W sitting right from the start is so huge.
Oh,
And so people ask, like, is that big of a deal? And the answer is yes. Actually, it
that's
is. Whatever
amazing.
you can do to change that is super important, and it affects too, in terms of it transitioning into like development and crawling and those sort of things, how we use our brain. So it's kind of like a global, yeah, little thing that we can catch early on.
That is so wild. Oh my gosh, had no idea. See, this is every person, I swear, answers this question completely different.
Yeah,
And it's the first time you were number one, Collie, number one person to
right.
talk about W sitting. This is revolutionary. This is nuts. Okay, okay, I need another one. You've
Oh, well, the other one's a
there's
complete shift or pivot. But it's probably the use of out of network benefits through your insurance. So a lot of HMO insurance companies see us as out of network because we treat in the home and our kids are not homebound. But that being said, having been in this world and something that I've learned and kind of debunked over the last few years is one, our access to out of network benefits that most of us don't even realize, like what that benefit is to us. We often have to look, which I highly encourage, because we often have more than we realize and can plan for that. And the other is because this is kind of the debunk of because we're the only hybrid model that does the mobile outpatient
Mhm.
practice and goes to families to provide that service, we're it, whether you're in
Yep.
network or out of network. So we've been able to be really successful. It does take a little, a few steps for parents' parts, but shifting those benefits from out of network to in network because, we are the provider that does that. So
That's
that's
amazing.
kind of like a back end of insurance. And, I think that world is very complicated and feels very complicated. But it's amazing a couple phone calls, what it can teach us.
That is amazing. Yeah, the insurance game is definitely a rough one. There's there's a lot of confusion, and it's great when you as a provider can help families be proactive and seeing what they can do with their insurance, which is so nice and such a relief for them too. So that's great that you can provide that resource and kind of get in there and help them out and kind of, helping people out being a major topic of today. Would love to kind of round things out today with getting some pro tips from you. We've already got a few W sitting, which I'm still stuck on it. That's a great piece of advice. But would love for you to give a tip for anyone that's trying to move their health better in a better trajectory or something, a pro tip that maybe you would commonly give as advice to parents or a child. And then on the commerce side of that, because of the nature of what we do, and there's so many providers that are always looking at this, would love maybe a pro tip for a provider, something that is really important to you in your business, whether it's a piece of technology or something that you do every day for your business. It's sometimes, you can feel like you're out on your own island sometimes, and it's great to hear what other folks are doing that are really helping them every day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great questions. I think, so my background is physical therapy. That's what I have my doctorate in. So it's probably going to be a little biased to that. But for parents, it's really, and I'm a parent, so perhaps it comes from that. Trust your instincts. A lot of our referrals, some of our referrals come from physicians and other providers in the community. Most of them come from families directly. I should say this too, our state of Connecticut is a direct access state. So that means PT, OT, and speech, unless an institution requires it. So we do not, we follow just the direct access law, but that you don't need a referral. So a lot of our families, call on their own instincts of what they have concerns for, and some have diagnoses and some don't. And I would say follow that, as a parent, we know our kids the best, better than a physician would, better than a therapist would. And if you feel like their, walk or their run is just not quite right, or that their pain is persistent and it feels like, something might be, just something might be wrong, but you're not sure what it is. You go to the pediatrician and they say, they're going to grow out of it. And your instincts tell you, like, I don't know if I feel that's the case. Whether it's PTOT or speech related, trust those. All of the evals that, or all the intakes that we get. I always say evaluations are information. There's nothing wrong with getting more information. At the end of the day, you are that team for your child and for your family, and you're just taking that information and then you make the best decision you can. So that would probably be my advice for families. For providers, it would be whether you are a PTOT or speech, look from head to toe. If it's a little one, have them take, their shirt off and really get like a full, picture of their body and their spine and their, even from a speech perspective, like they have open mouth posture. Why? Where is that coming from? Do they have low tones somewhere else? Same with feeding for OT. We really try to look at not just the narrowness of our scope in terms of, like, the mouth being speech and the hand being OT, but the whole body, and then bringing it to what the functional concern is.
That makes so much sense. I think so often we second guess ourselves, or we're told, especially a lot today, like how you said, the pediatrician might say, oh, like they'll grow out of it. It's fine,
Yeah.
but you might have that mom sense that's tingling, and you're like, this, I know my child, and I know this doesn't feel right. And to lead with that, really smart. I think I don't, I, yeah, I think we need to trust our gut a little bit more. And I love that you had said that. And then also for PTs, it's, or for anyone, speech, just taking a really deep dive, holistic look, seeing where things might be at that, there's always more that meets the eye, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
Such great pro tips for everyone involved. Kali, this has been amazing. You are such a wealth of knowledge. You debunked so many myths for us today. You've given us so much to think about and great, and just also great reminders too. Things that are just floating in the back of our minds. We know this stuff already.
Right.
Think we don't often maybe act on it as much. So I loved everything that you had to say. But before we leave off today, I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you guys, where they can reach out, where they can get more information about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any referral you can call. Our number's 203-518-8447. You can email us at contact@coastalkidsphysicaltherapy.com. So it's our whole practice name. And the same for the website. So coastalkidsphysicaltherapy.com. You can find lots of great information there. We also have Instagram and Facebook. Follow us there, same Coastal Kids Physical Therapy. And any questions that you have, we set appointments for any new referrals that come through. So we will schedule a 15-minute appointment just to listen to your concerns, answer any questions you might have, and then connect you with the best provider to match you with.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Kali. We so appreciate your time here today, and we hope to have you on again.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Rachel.